But I want to make sure that we are clear, because I think that Senator Lindsey Graham and Governor McMaster are disingenuous in the arguments and some of the things that they put forward. One is that this is a truly transformational voting rights bill. It is anti-corruption, it is pro-ethics, and it's a clean elections reform package. It would essentially stop any type of voter suppression and fraud across the United States. And it is guaranteed to actually return power to the people and build a more equitable and prosperous future for Americans and ensure the integrity. But most importantly, it is an opportunity for us to guarantee that freedom and voting in this country happens without voter intimidation. It is something that protects our elections from foreign interference. It promotes digital ad transparency. It forces the disclosure of dark money, and it reins in lobbyist influence, and it enforces ethics and conflicts of interest rules for all government officials. Now, I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound like a bad thing when you're trying to protect democracy. And at the end of the day, what we just witnessed was Henry McMaster and Lindsey Graham try to scare the hell out of people in a rambling press conference that really made no sense whatsoever, other than the fact that you have two people who claim to love freedom. They claim to love democracy, but yet they are the very two people who try to prevent individuals from voting and try to stop people's access to the ballot box. You know, it's interesting that Lindsey Graham continuously talks about ballot harvesting. South Carolina law is very clear. It prohibits campaigns, employees of campaigns, or volunteers who might be reimbursed for mileage or other things from actually interfering in the absentee ballot process or getting applications or absentee ballots. But whose campaign actually sent out a nice slick piece of mail trying to get people to request an absentee ballot? I'm not convinced that it wasn't one of the most well-funded attempts at ballot harvesting in the history of the state of South Carolina, and it was done by Lindsey Graham. And at the end of the day, he is the individual who was guilty of ballot harvesting, not some Democratic far left group of individuals in the state of South Carolina. But let's talk about the integrity of our election process. It was no one else other than Lindsey Graham, who is chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, tried to overturn a fair and free election in the state of Georgia. His calls into Georgia and his calls into Arizona were not only unethical, they were the complete antithesis to everything he just stood up and said. At the end of the day, if you want to talk about fraud and ballot harvesting and interfering in election integrity, those two individuals need to stand up and look at the mirror. Henry McMaster referenced a case almost 40 years ago in Dillon County. The fact is that if there is election fraud in this state, and if there is ballot harvesting that is illegal in this state, then let's point it out. Which of the 6 United States congressmen from this state committed that ballot harvesting or election fraud? Which United States senator of the 9 constitutional offices, which one committed fraud? The supermajority in the State House of Representatives, which one of those local elected officials committed fraud? Of the state Senate, those 3 new state senators that won their races, which one committed fraud, Lindsey Graham, Henry McMaster? You control everything in this state. And the governor actually stood before the press today and said, essentially, that the reason they're trying to change the election system in South Carolina is because the state executive director of the Election Commission did exactly what her job was to do, and that is inform the legislature of the problems with carrying out the constitutionally mandated free and fair election process. And now they're trying to change the system so that they can get rid of her. Ladies and gentlemen, Chicken Little and the emperor who is wearing no clothes don't have to convince us the sky is falling. The only true people who are attempting to create a power grab is Lindsey Graham and Henry McMaster. And at the end of the day, you have to really, it is just fascinating that these individuals are the first to vote against money to fund our actual election commissions in all of these counties. The ones who are responsible for carrying out this process, Henry McMaster and Lindsey Graham, consistently cut the monies to those organizations, but yet they expect them to carry out the responsibilities. They're vastly underfunded, and that would assist in making sure that our process is above board. But at the end of the day, this is really about one thing. Lindsey Graham and Henry McMaster are scared to death. They were like two whining little babies who don't know what to do. Wah, wah, wah. But at the end of the day, the Democrats in this state increased our share of the general election electorate. Jamie Harrison received more votes in the middle of a pandemic than any Democrat in the history of South Carolina. While the percentages may be disheartening, the fact is that Lindsey only won by about 200,000 more votes. And the electorate and the mood of the people in this state are changing based on the American Rescue Act, the stimulus bills that have been passed by Congress, and with the newly announced infrastructure bill. What they're concerned about is that these bills are making people's lives better, because there is a difference between actually governing in the administration, and the Republicans over the last 4.5 years were not capable of doing either. And now we've got an administration that is moving forward to bring $3.6 billion into the state of South Carolina under the previous, the American Rescue Act. That $3.6 billion, if Henry McMaster would expand Medicaid, that would add an additional $600 million. We do not know exactly what will happen in South Carolina under the infrastructure bill that President Biden created, but it is an opportunity to bring drinking water to Belton, to Denmark, South Carolina, to fix wastewater runoff into the ocean down in Myrtle Beach. But it's also an opportunity to fix almost every crumbling road. How great would it be to be able to go to a Clemson football game or go down to Charleston without spending 3.5 to 4 hours back-to-back traffic? That's what this stimulus package will do for the state of South Carolina. And that's, at the end of the day, what Lindsey Graham and Henry McMaster are doing, having a whining, little rambling press conference, like two little babies who don't know what to do. And so they are concerned that the people of this state will actually appreciate the Rescue Act and the infrastructure bill. And so with that, I conclude the remarks today, but what you've just seen is unconscionable when you've got two members of our state who are responsible for actually creating logical, rational arguments instead of rambling, fictitious, whining little press conferences like two little babies. Thank you.